Okay, here is my challenge floor 20 solution. You do not need Fallen Cecilia. I want to say that first and foremost before you click off the video. In order to get 3 stars on this fight, you need to bring a 4-star or higher knight. And when Shadow Rose uses the mechanic where she spawns a clone, you need to land a provoke on that clone 4 times. Basically, they want you to play a 4-star or higher knight that actually has a provoke as a basic skill. I chose Fallen Cecilia because it's the best one that I have geared, and she still has some level of effectiveness on her. I have tried Krau. I have tried Yulha as well on this. You can clear it with both of them. It's just that I was unlucky. I don't have any effectiveness on those characters, so I kept getting resisted. But I should have landed somewhere between 5 and 6 provokes throughout the course of a fight. So if I actually had decided to re-gear them and put actual effectiveness gear on them, I definitely would have gotten the weakness status. You can also use Crimson Armin as well. That will definitely work. So how Shadow Rose works is she turns off all passive skills for the fight for everyone on your team. She also takes drastically reduced damage as long as she has 1 or more debuffs on her. So you want to make sure that you are bringing characters that do not have debuffs on their basic attacks. Characters like your Zahaks, your Lunas. Although Luna does have a passive that is dispelled, which means that if you didn't actually build her with a naturally 100% crit chance, then it's not going to be quite as good. Now, the other mechanic throughout the fight is this crystal here. What it does is every time you use your second non-attack skill, it will strip 1 buff from a character and then stun them, and it has the possibility of doing it to 2 characters instead. That is why you see that I have no Soul Weaver on my team, because I wanted to minimize the chances that the actual crystal could stun my team. If I brought a character like DN, for example, I was afraid I was going to get stunned way too often. Now, after having played it and seeing how Zahak fares using his non-attack skill throughout the fight, it's not as bad as I originally thought. So if you want to actually use a Soul Weaver, you are more than welcome to do so. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. Zahak, I think, though, is the best damage dealer for this. He does a lot of damage because he basically is a pseudo-passive on his S1 and S3. It's not actually shot off by the seal, so he still gets to just play 50% critical hit chance and still do max damage on his S1 and his S3. His S2 has a cleanse for the defense defense breaks throughout the fight. And then the S3 is a powerful nuke that also puts him in invincibility so that he has no worries about actually getting hit. Mercedes gives my team an attack buff, is free to play, is AoE, just really good, no debuffs in the kit, so that's why we chose her as well. Now, when the clone actually spawns on Shadow Rose, I think this is the only actual hard part of the fight. While the clone is out, Shadow Rose takes no damage. The clone takes all the damage for her, and the beneficial effect to the boss is that whenever Shadow Rose does any attack, the clone will also do the same attack. So if they defense break one character, another character is going to get defense broken. So you see, my Landy is taking a beating right now. Again, this is the only dangerous part of this fight, because for some reason, Shadow Rose is slow as dirt, and I ran circles around her pretty much the entire fight, and my characters aren't even like crazy fast. Like most of them are around 180 to 220 or so. So yeah, really slow Shadow Rose. All you have to do at this point is just sit back and hope that your tank of choice can land the 4 provokes. When it's time to actually get out of that phase, the way to kill the clone instantaneously is hit her with the 3rd soul burn attack. So you want to bring characters with cheap soul burns as well. Zahak is 10, and then Mercedes herself is also 10. Landy is 20, which is a bit more expensive, but I have used Bomb Model Kana, and again, I got it with Yulha to under 5% or so. So you could definitely use Bomb Model Kana. It's just a lot more shaky than Landy because the damage output just simply isn't there, and she loses access to her dual attack chance because it's a passive, and that is one of the primary things that makes her really good with Bloodstone. If you don't have Landy, though, absolutely could still work. It's just going to be a bit rockier. But yeah, once you're ready to kill the clone, all you got to do, just soul burn it 3 times real quick in rapid succession, and you'll get out of that phase. And if you already have the weakness debuff on Shadow Rose, you're pretty much done. You just go face at this point. Hit her as hard as you can. Spam your Archies when you got it. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for her to actually recharge her super and whatnot, or the crystal to charge its super, and therefore actually respawn the clone so that you can go for it again. In my experience, I basically beat this fight 3 times, although I didn't actually get the final clear with the team except for this one. This is pretty much a joke of a last floor. Assuming you have adequate sustain, decent speed, good damage, and a proper team composition, it's really hard to mess this up. The only place that basically I feel like you could fail is if you just, for some reason, get resisted on your provokes. Like I said, Yulha, I went like 5 or 6 times, and I just still couldn't land 4 redirected provokes. Had I had some level of effectiveness on her, then this would have been super, super easy with Yulha, and I would have gotten it on my very first try. So I leave it to you to decide which tank you want to actually play. I'll show you again those tank options again at the very end of the video. So yeah, we just use Arky now for damage because at this point, again, weakness is down. We have our 4-star higher knight on the team. We just have to end the game as fast as possible. So we're just playing for Arky. And there you go. They said one of the easier floors for sure. So that will be the second wave of Abyss Challenge Mode, guys, done. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this. I will obviously be back again for a third one. Grab my 500 Mystic Metals that I'll be planning to use for Zeo. And now let's take a quick look at the gear. Here's my Mercedes. This is the same Mercedes I believe I've used for every floor for the past 10 floors of these guides. I changed my Landy slightly, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Any competent damage Landy with Bloodstone will be fine, whether it's fast, slow, or hard hitting. It's just a stock Landy on Bloodstone. Here's my Zahak. I gave him a little bit more bruiser stats at the expense of speed. You can see here, critical hit chance by 50%, and also on execute, hit chance or critical hit chance by 50%. It's basically like having a passive that can't be sealed, so that's really good. And he has a cleanse on his S2. That's why we used him. Here's my Fallen Cecilia, my best built tank right now. Although, again, you could use Yulha. I did get very far with Yulha. I could have very easily ended the fight, but because of no effectiveness, couldn't actually land the weakness. And I just didn't want to beat my head against the wall, especially because I started with Krau. Crimson Armin, you could obviously play her as well here. 100% chance to provoke. And like I was just saying, I started with Krau, but the 75% chance to provoke just really wasn't it. Anyways, hopefully these guides helped, and I'll see you all in the next set of Abyss guides. Later.